This is Trophy Dark, the Giant's Carcass Part 2. We've already done our recap off camera, so I will go ahead and just say we are starting in Ring 3. The spine. The blood is deep, dark red and stains anything that touches it. It is sticky and clings to body parts. The bones of the rib cage, you have to navigate those as you're moving along the spine, and the bones are all, the ribs are fractured in places, and the shards tear at your clothing as you sort of navigate past them. You sometimes have to duck under vertebrae, and each time you do, it gets harder and harder to stand up straight. At one point, Vero, you step on an actual nerve of the giant, and the whole mountain just shudders violently, and it's like an earthquake, and you'll have to kind of catch yourselves. You can still hear, though it gets fainter as you go further and further along the spine, you can still hear the sort of whispering exhortations of the hermits up in the lungs. I think I'd like to just pick up the scene here with everyone there, perhaps quietly doing whatever they're doing, or maybe talking about things that have transpired. Certainly we have some tension between Brandywine and Inda. But yeah, I think I'm going to just turn it over to you all for a moment, and then I'll interject when it feels right. So go ahead and just role play.
Macero is at the head of the party. He is searching for an exit. He is done with dealing with the environment. He has what he needs, what he thinks he needs to pay for his brother's freedom from prison. And so his main goal, number one goal, is to find an exit.
Yeah.
I think Inda kind of sees Macero's impatience, and when she walks over to him, I think maybe she goes to pat him on the shoulder, but at this point, maybe you could also like say this is wrong. I'm still like thinking about how Macero's like growing. I think maybe she like touches his elbow at this point. Like there's such of a height difference and size difference.
I'm curious about that, Macero. I mean, do you think that is the growth that dramatic? Like, are you getting like really like visibly, physically, almost like freakishly taller?
I feel like it's, yeah, because when he started, he was like a young boy, and now he's probably like, like that growth spurt between 14 and 15 that everyone has. All of a sudden he has that, and so he's probably like adult size now. So yeah, probably depending on how tall she is, she does have to reach it up. I do know when she does that, she touches his shoulder, he like wrenches it away and kind of like holds his hand is covered with a cloth, and that's what's holding the black bile stone, whatever that little artifact. So he's like, everything, I think we came this way, or are you helping? There's got to be an exit.
Yes. I understand this isn't the best place to be. Well, what's with the impatience? You're rushing so fast. You're aging right in front of us.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I have what I need to help my brother. This place is evil. we don't belong here. I don't belong here.
Have you shown anybody your hands? Because you've
No.
been hiding.
Absolutely not.
Well, then I think it goes, what did you find? You've kind of been edging away from us, and kind of looks down at your cloaked arm and hand.
A treasure, a bauble. It's mine. What's yours is yours. This is mine.
I think of. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Does Inda have an artifact? I believe so, right? No.
It does not. It is the only one who
No.
does not have one.
No,
I know.
and I'm getting real mad about it. I'm getting a little pissed.
He's like, she just like looks at Inda. He looks at Inda and is like, you're always treating me like a little child. I have done as much as anyone to help us along the way. I helped getting us to this place. I don't appreciate the kind of condescension that you are giving me.
The irony of that is really rich, considering that Massaro now towers over Inda, it seems like. So I kind of like that a lot. Brandwine, I'm curious about what you're up to. And also Vero, I'm curious what you're up to, but I'm particularly curious, Vero, you kind of know a little more about this place than everyone else does because you have seen how it affected the previous pilgrims. So what are the two of you up to?
Brandwine has just been watching this in the Massaro exchange, like leaning up against a rib, like foot up against a wall, and just sucking on her teeth. Because as she's been walking through the blood squelching, it's magnifying the coagulated taste of blood in her own mouth. And absentmindedly, she might be using her carve ritual to just like knock notches in the rib that she's standing up against, waiting for them to finish the exchange, just watching.
I think every time you do something that like damages the rib like that, it causes like a trembling inside the mountain, right? Because imagine if your own ribs were like being like splintered in some way, you would be in terrible pain. Vero, what are you up to?
I imagine I would have, we're all pretty close together, it seems. I mean, if we're kind of like in like marching order through this sort of sticky cavern here. So I would be, listening very intently to Massaro and Indo's conversation. Inda, like you said, sort of took that sort of maternal role as I took the paternal one. And I guess now after that first bit of drama in the last scene, the Brandwine versus Inda sort of drama, I'm like rethinking everyone's relationships. And I am seeing that Massaro is quite bigger than his britches at this point, that we've sort of been enablers of this sort of like the growth of his pride through this. So I'm kind of, I guess maybe Vero is, touching his leech and sort of cuddling it around, maybe even like rubbing bits of like stickiness off of the sigil I got and like feeding it to my leech. And I'm just thinking like, all of these relationships are about to be put to the test. Like we are all marching forward. The fact that Massaro is thinking maybe he wants to get out, I take as like a relief because then we might not have to fight at the end. But I think it's gonna be then, Vero is running through the relationships in his head and sort of rethinking his alignment so far as he listens in.
Indeed. Oh, let that motorcycle pass. That's great. Well, let me take a look at the incursion and see what's supposed to be happening here. Here's the thing. Brandwine, I think you absentmindedly, since you said you were sort of like fiddling with the ribs, you absentmindedly cut your arm on a jagged piece of bone. And there's a fair amount of blood that begins drip, 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 dripping down. And as soon as the blood sort of like drips down into this sort of squishy void beneath the spine, you can hear something responding to it down there. And if you all turn your light sources, we always assume you have lanterns or something, as you turn your light sources down to the noise, you will see, first it's the sound of like many things heavy, shuffling, shifting their weight through the squelchy muck. But then, as they get close to the blood, they let up noises of excitement. There's a kind of like a, it's probably like, probably like a dozen of just like, and here you will see, everyone, more of the large maggots. But these are different. They're worse. They are the same concept as the ones you've seen before. Bloated, pale, white human faces. But they are truly more monstrous somehow than even the ones you've seen before. We're going to paint the scene and discuss the monstrousness, and I'm going to start by saying they are more monstrous because they have jaws that open wide, that hinge too wide, jaws filled with teeth that look like bits of bone shard just jammed in there. Everyone else describe how these are even more monstrous than the ones we've seen before.
Like this,
After you.
like the structure of a woolly caterpillar. They have barbs that are hooked and spined all the way down their sides, and it looks like they've got like bits of things and flesh stuck to them that they've just been dragging along.
Sarah?
The other ones had faces, right?
They did, yeah.
Some the kind of recognizable faces is even more pronounced. They have giant. Their eyes, however, are have like a caul over them, like a milky, almost like they're blind. It's kind
I
of
love
add
it.
creepiness, yeah.
Calls are always gross. Anytime a call happens, it's grossness. Into Rivero.
I think that maybe like as they move, it kind of like, like the accordion style like movement of the things. There's actually like colors that sort of ripple over the surface. So while there's still sort of that like, ligament white or something, there's actually color that sort of maybe radiates maybe between some of the barbs that sort of gives off light and kind of makes them then like spookier with these weird like sort of shadows, and multicolor sort of emissions coming out as they move.
The appendages on these ones are a lot more pronounced, almost like small hands that give them way more grip onto the very surfaces that they're crawling and climbing over.
The creatures are clearly excited, agitated by blood. They are not really to where they can reach you. As long as you stay on the spine, you're fairly safe from them, I would say. But I will say this. Inda, one of them has a yellow sigil fused to their back. It's maybe your only chance to get a sigil or you can pass it up, of course. The rest of you, the creatures sort of they've retained something like speech and something like memories of who they used to be. And I think you each start to hear what you want to hear out of it. Like, when you're listening to, heavy metal records and you play them backwards and you supposedly hear some paeans to Satan. It's that kind of thing. There's really nothing there, but you think you hear something. Your mind starts to like create a pattern. I'm curious for everyone but Inda, what do the maggots seem like they're whispering to you about your drive?
Well, I think Vero, again, ruined the caravan and sort of owes money to this like Bombay company style thing, right? This like travel company. I've been in debt and sort of living on the fringe of society for that. I think these folks are telling me to like embrace, the power is yours, and kind of actually pulling me away from the drive. Like, I don't owe them nothing. And I'm starting to feel like empowered to almost like get bigger than my drive, right? Like, forget them, like embrace immortality, take it for yourself. So my pride, or like this power is challenging my drive.
Very interesting. Brandwine, Miss Sarah?
Brandwine hears chants of failure and disgrace and whispers of just never being able to succeed. She has been trying to destroy the work of this debauched painter, and she got so close to one of the paintings and she didn't quite, she was caught and cast out of her order and told never to come back because you will never ever be any good at this. And so in her mind, immortality is what will give her the time to get really honed in and become the fighter that she needs to be. But for now, these worms are doing nothing but casting doubt on that goal.
Interesting. What if I told you that when one of the maggots moves, you see along the fleshy wall part of what appears to be a mural painted on the fleshy wall? Like someone came here and painted a mural on the interior of the giant.
I would stop dumbstruck for a moment and consider whether or not I want to carve it off the wall like a canvas and just slice it off and roll it up, perhaps to burn outside this place.
Sarah, what do the worms seem to whisper about your drive?
There's like a kind of labored breathing that's coming from them that I start to recognize as the voice of my brother. And I feel like I can hear his voice saying, "You'll never leave there. I'm here to die alone, and it's your fault." And he's just kind of chastising me for failing.
Fantastic. I would like for the three of you to make a ruin roll, please. I see a 1 for Brandwine, a 3 for Guest. I assume that's
Me.
Miss Arrow. And
Oh, let me grab that link. I had opened it from last time.
okay, yeah, you'll need the new one.
Sorry, I was in one by myself.
It's okay.
But I got a 4. Yeah,
There you are.
there we go. 4.
And 4 again. All right. Did anyone's ruin go up? I'm assuming Massaro and Brandwines did not. Okay. Sounds good. Inda, one of these things has a sigil on its body. You can see it. What do you do?
I was thinking, are they kind of below us? Do you think? Like as we're on top of the spine?
Yeah,
'Cause I would-
you could probably like scale down. It wouldn't be too much trouble. Especially if you like kind of rig up something, you could certainly do that. I'd say they're probably about 20 feet below.
I was thinking of doing a nice old jump on top of one.
Well, they might be a softer landing than you'd imagine.
Right. Yeah. I'm like 20 feet, that's rough, but if these things are as big as they seem, maybe
Yeah, they
might not hurt
squish.
too bad.
I don't think it's unreasonable. Getting back up might be tricky. I will tell you though, Inda, that one of the maggots, maybe even the one that has a sigil, looks up at you with its flesh occluded eyes, its broken tooth maw that opens just a little too widely, its little hands. And it says, "Feed us more."
Yeah. Just thinking about that. The other thing after hearing that Inda's thinking of is just feeling a little bothered after talking with Massaro and the way that he talked down to her, and he just seems so done with everything, and he's got what he needs. So maybe she can shorten this journey of his a little bit.
Ruin
Maybe he'll
roll.
find a shortcut down there.
Make a ruin roll. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
Keeping it together. I suppose it's because you're all getting very, very like caught up in this place. So, Brandwine, I'm curious what you're doing, since you also might have a reason for going down there.
Is it my estimation that if I was to try and remove this mural that looks very much to me like it was painted somehow by the debauched painter I am trying to destroy?
Possibly, yeah.
Do I get the impression that just much like the ribs, if I was to try and carve this off, it would cause a commotion?
It definitely would, but you could do it.
Mhm. I'm just going to put a pin in that for now. And maybe I'll walk up to Inda, who has been staring at these. Oh, the movement was too good. The grubs, these giant, monstrous things. And I will gently say in her ear, "I'm very sorry about the last one. Would you like some help getting this one?"
I knew it. I knew this was gonna happen. It's always the most obvious betrayal you can do is not the one that's gonna happen. Instead of team up.
I'll also remind everyone, Brandwine can still do reduction rolls as well. No one else has earned the ability to do it.
I think Inda quietly looks over. It's just like, what's your aim here? You're suddenly very wanting to be suddenly very helpful to me.
Only by means of an apology. Vera was right. I should not have been making choices I truly thought I was helping. I'm genuinely sorry, and I thought this might be a way of making amends.
Well, we need a distraction. And I think Inda will just look over at Macero.
Vero, what are you up to right now?
I mean, I can look down and see these monstrously grotesque things. I think I know everyone else there is probably slightly more interested than I am. I'm still feeling, if I'm still hearing those voices, I'm still maybe like building up like the greed inside myself. But I would make sure I'm available to conversation. I would offer to help the group as well. You know, noticing that Inda does have a focus down there. So yeah, I'll offer my services as well. Like, what are you two planning? What do you need? If we're not moving forward, what are we doing here?
Well, I was trying to help Inda. Well, I felt you were absolutely right, and I was trying to make amends because I threw away the last one. That maybe she would like this thing down there. You can see it, it's yellow.
Well, going down there might be easier than getting back up. Some of us should stay up here. If you want to risk your necks for a piece of yellow goo, go right ahead. And I'll do exactly everything I can to help you back up, but I'm not going down there with you.
Sarah, what are you doing right now? While they're having the little conclave over there, what are you up to?
You know what? I feel like those voices, the voice that I think is my brother, is coming from the worm with the yellow. So with the yellow sigil. So if there is all in action or it takes too long, I will go down there and I will take it for myself.
Well, so I think you all have, we just assume you have whatever equipment you might need to rappel down or whatever, right? And so are you doing that? Are you starting to like tie off a line and get ready to go down there, Macero?
Yes. I take a length of rope and I tie it around one of the ribs, like maybe like a jutting out of some of the bone that I think is steady, and I start wrapping it, and then I throw it down there, and I begin preparing for a descent. So
I think I know what I want to do.
You're gonna cut the rope, aren't you?
I think as soon as you start describing that, Jay, I was just like, yeah. I think it has a second where she wants to call out to him, but then sees like where he's rappelling down is just like, no. If he manages to fall, this could distract a lot of them and give her a better chance at grabbing that one. So yeah.
This is very, very treacherous behavior, and you don't even get a ruin reduction for doing it.
No.
I am curious if we'll kind of handle this out of character for now. Do we think that Macero would be able to see this pending betrayal and react, or is Macero just getting dropped down into the pit? I mean, what makes the most sense here? Because if we think that Macero can stop the betrayal in some way or get back up or something, then that's a contest roll. If it's not, it's probably going to be a risk roll while Macero tries to stay alive down in the pit. So there's different ways this could kind of play out mechanically and fictionally. So I'm curious what everyone's thinking, especially Jay, since it's Macero kind of in the brink here.
How far is the pit?
It's about 20 feet. It's not like it's like too far to jump, but it's not like so far that you're gonna like be killed if you fall down there. Yeah.
And it's filled with these
well, I think they're probably in like little small groups, so you probably have to deal with like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah.
Well, I'm picturing it getting dropped in the pig trough, right? This is like the Wild West when you want to get rid of a body. You like
yeah, it's
like,
very like feed the pigs. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like they're slow though. They're not super fast. So there's that, And who knows? I mean, you have the black bile of, or the black sigil of whatever the hell it is. So you might be able to, handle them very handily. But
I go to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, mechanically speaking, I like the fact that it could be a contest roll because it's not a reduction roll, like giving Jay an opportunity, and it is just 10 feet or 15 feet away. Doesn't seem like there would be a lot of subterfuge on the edge of a cliff,
Yeah.
but maybe.
yeah, and the only thing is, unless we think it would just be more interesting for Macero to go down, to fall down to the pit, right? I mean, so yeah.
Before that, I want to call Vero over.
Sounds good.
And I say, Vero, I would like your help descending down here, like as you offered. I feel like Inda has something planned for me. And I look over and I see he has one of the sigils too, right? It's like she's the only one without a treasure.
Well, we don't know that Brandwine has it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, you all thought that Brandwine, it got dropped, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Either way, do I see Vero's though? I know that.
Yeah.
Vero, so yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
have that, the red
we
one.
have the treasure, and I know my man with the Southern Pass would pay top coin for these. If you help me, I will help you.
I'm willing to go along with it, even though I'm not so trustworthy of Macero. Vero, for his own reasons, would say yes. Inda needs the immortality to raise the loved one. Doesn't need this at all. And if it comes to the end, letting Inda have just to give you my sort of reasoning here, to give Inda the immortality one at the end, Macero is less likely to murder somebody if he's already got two. And then we can give the big one to Inda, and she might be okay with that. So I say yes. I'm like, yeah, I get you. Let's amass these treasures. But I guess I will say then, but that means then no immortality. You have what you need. I have what I need. Let Inda and Brandwine fight it out for the last one. If you're willing to make this the last one you get, I'm cool with helping you.
That's fine. Yeah.
Who's
Cool.
getting their tiki
I agree.
torch extinguished at the end of this? That's what
I was about to say there's a lot of immunity
All of
idols.
this is in like soap opera whispers,
Yeah. Dramatic asides. I'm like, yes, if this is your last one, we both have what we need. We have to then commit ourselves to helping them. They have loved ones that need it.
I feel like the mention of loved ones, kind of turns him sympathetic toward.
Well, this is very interesting then. It seems like what we might be having here is it a contest roll between the two sort of like little factions to get the yellow sigil? There's also the interesting side thing of Brandwine maybe wanting to get down there to get or no, you decided to put a pin in that for now, didn't you, Brandwine? But the yellow sigil, I mean, you can all just keep going, or you can walk past it, of course, in hopes of getting the heart one. But of course, you can maybe have a contest to see who gets down there and gets it. It's an intriguing thing. It's a dilemma. Yeah.
Sarah's ultimate purpose is not the sigil. That'll just be the extra. It's to
talk to the you think the
Yeah.
one is your brother, or it has communication with your brother. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. But like, I don't think Inda knows that, right? Like, that's the thing.
I think a contest roll would probably be good, because I think at this point, if Inda's talking with Brandwine for a moment and looks over and sees them having their little powwow and sees Macero start to go down, she's gonna run over and try to cut it.
Very interesting indeed. So if we're going to do a contest roll, we need to establish the stakes appropriately. Like, what is at stake? It sounds to me like at a basic level, what's at stake is whether Macero gets cut and dropped into the pit or not. In which case, it's probably Vero and Inda doing the contest roll, right? And so does that seem like appropriate stakes, Calvin and Caleb? I mean, like whether or not Macero gets dropped down into the hole.
Yeah. And then on the other side, then I think it could also be that Inda sort of, again, not to, but like Inda might comply with this idea of like, no, I promise I'll help you get the heart one. And
yeah,
so
I mean, I think
the
no matter
opposite.
how you succeed at it, I think it just kind of comes down to whether the rope gets cut or not, right?
Yep, cool.
I love it. I think it's great. Let's talk about dice. I need to remind myself how this works always. I think it might be in the character keeper too, though, to be honest. I want to say Ben put it in the character keeper somewhere.
He absolutely did.
It's right
Oh, it
there.
is right there. You just hover on the contest roll. Oh, good. When treasure hunters act against each other, agree what's at stake. We've done that. Okay, competing characters. You get a light die if you have a relevant skill. So what do you think? Depending on your approach here.
Probably for me, argued deduction or surgery.
Surgery.
I guess
kind of like surgery, is it?
Yeah.
You're just particularly good at cutting things quickly and precisely.
Right.
I would go for coordination again, as trying to like manage all the people's needs and desires.
I
and
like
kind
that
of
too.
like,
Yeah, I think that's very good. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, so you both have a light die. That's great. How many ruin marks do you have, Inda?
Got 3.
And Vero?
4 for me.
All right, so Inda has an extra 3 light dice and Vero has an extra 4.
Is there a way I can help?
There's no help roll on this, sadly, but you can certainly participate in the fiction, though. I don't think the contest is inherently dangerous to the two of you. It's inherently dangerous to Macero, but that's something we'll deal with later. And otherwise, you roll as many dark dice as you want to risk.
Okay, I would not be willing to like put myself in front of the blade. No offense, Macero, but yeah, I'm not gonna like jump in the way.
Yeah. I didn't get the impression it was that kind of conflict.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 4 light and 5 light to Inda and Vero respectively. You each get to risk as many dark dice as you wish. If any of the dark dice come up 1, your ruin goes up by 1 per dark die that comes up 1. And you're looking for whoever gets the most 6s. So that is the roll. You can go into the die roller and type in your values and hit enter whenever you're ready. Or maybe on the count of 3.
Yeah, count of 3 here.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it already rolled.
Oh, I'm in the wrong one again.
Get in the right one.
Okay, I've got 5 of these and 3 of those.
Okay. You tied on 6s, but Vero got 2 5s, and so Vero wins. But Vero's ruin goes up by 1 as well. So Vero, you have control. How do you convince Inda to not cut the rope?
I think with that 1 ruin in there, I think maybe I do get hit. So I'm gonna say, Inda moves with surgical speed or comes at it, and like while I'm talking, then yeah, that knife's gonna like hit me and cut open, and I'll say that realization then that you were about to like murder someone and like murder this person, murder me, might sort of slow Inda down a little bit as a compassionate person, who is there to save lives. And as I'm like bleeding out, then if you want to help me, you can. And I might say, let the boy have his sigil. We will be there for you in the end, and we will be there for you for your loved one. Yes, and I have something I'm going to try to use to heal myself too, my little buddy, if Inda won't help me.
Once again, Inda gets no sigil.
I get nothing.
But I do reassure of the plan. We will be there for you in the end.
Let's just have that scene. We'll check in with Macero in a minute, but I do want to have the scene between Inda and Vero.
please. I'll like shake the knife out of your hand as you sort of like realize that I'm bleeding everywhere. Please help me, and we will help you.
Does Inda see this leech now, finally?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good time. You can see my vulnerability. Yeah, you see that this thing has been like moving all over me, leaving marks.
Think that Inda backs up a bit and goes and says, you, both of you, are already so intertwined with this place. You don't care about me and my goals. In fact, you're trying to keep me from getting them. Both of you have already been given gifts by this place, and you're trying to keep them from me.
Indeed, we are. We have the gifts we need, and you still need your own. It would make
Then
no
why are
sense
you
for
preventing me from getting them?
because the one you want is on the heart, Inda. That's the one you want. And Macero and I don't need that. We don't want that. We are done.
Have we ever talked about why immortality would help Inda achieve her drive?
Oh, I assumed she was going to put it on the dead body and like resurrect the lover, I guess
That's
is what I
right.
assumed this whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, out of character.
Yeah.
But that was just trail talk. That's just what you told us on the trail. We don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's important, but she feels woefully unprepared compared to everyone else, and seeing how things are getting worse and worse and the things that we're experiencing are getting worse. She feels like she would be the one left behind as everyone progresses further.
Well,
I don't know that she believes you
yeah,
at all. I think, like, as you're trying to convince her, she's just shaking her head side to side. Just no. No, you're not gonna give that to me. If you can't give me something as simple as these runes, no.
all I can do is give you my word. That's all I have right now.
Go to Macero. Macero, I don't think you're aware of any of that. You're rappelling down on the rope. You are above the corpus of the large, iridescent, caul-faced maggot creature that speaks to you in the voice of your brother or something like it. And the sigil is just out of arm's reach. The creature looks up, and I know you're not even going for the sigil, but it looks up and it says, "Brother, I am so hungry. A taste. A taste is all I require to keep me going a little longer."
Lies. Stop it. You're not my brother.
It's currently using its little hands to like paw at your leg.
Totally. I I picture like Leo II, like little Dune. God Emperor. No, I take my sigil and I use black bile. Crush a person's hope and take their strength for your own.
Oh, I love it. That's a perfect time to use it. It's a risk roll. Everyone, good time to set some dramatic stakes for Macero here. What could go wrong when attempting to use the black bile sigil to crush this maggot's hopes? Who has a thought?
Much like the connection that the hermit monk had to your brother telepathically in the lungs, this maggot too has part of your brother's consciousness like linked And so when you suck the hopes from this maggot, you are also doing from your own brother.
Yeah, I think the spell could backfire and Macero loses hope instead.
I think it could just be the just a simple you somehow managed to get like overwhelmed by these creatures. Like we've established that they can kind of like crawl up a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking even, I mean, if you like reach your arm out with the sigil, that as you like prepare to Hadouken, you actually get grabbed by it and like, pulled in, part of you sort of pulled into the maul.
Yeah, that's all great. All right, let's talk about dice, Macero. Do you have a relevant skill here? Let's take a look. Rituals, that works for me.
Yeah, ritual. Is that I'm using a ritual?
Indeed. And now devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is going to be, I actually really like, I like a version of Caleb's fail condition, which is no matter what, yeah, your brother like loses hope. Sorry to steal that, Caleb, but I do like it.
No matter what, this will be the last sigil you get. This is the only one that you can have.
You take yourself out of the running for the rest. Yeah.
I don't think I have anything right now.
Yeah, no, I like both of those.
Two not great options, Macero. You can reject them both and just take one light die, or you can accept one.
I am just
go ahead.
So just a rules question. You don't have to have a dark die whenever you use a ritual? I thought that was original.
Yeah, there will be a dark die on, but for the light
Okay.
dice right now, Macero can choose to reject this one or not.
I'm gonna take Branwine's suggestion.
Got two light dice. Dark die is automatic because of the ritual. So go ahead and roll.
So 2 light dice and 1 dark.
Dark die. Yeah. It is a fail.
Yeah.
3, 2, and 2. You can add a dark die to try again. I'm going to tell you that the fail condition is going to be that while the one is distracting you, another is reaching up and grabbing you.
Okay, so I'm gonna do it again. So I can do 2 light, 2 dark.
Yep, you roll the whole thing again and you add a dark. That's better. 5 dark, your ruin goes up and you have to stop there. It's going to work. I think basically the ruin just comes from the thing fighting you, essentially, while it has its hope rested away. But you're going to get the yellow sigils, the yellow bile sigil, actually. So you have both the biles. Congratulations. Go ahead and describe what the magic looks like.
Oh, I feel like as I'm crushing the worm, the sigil falls on me, and it's kind of mucus-like, and it falls not on my hand but on my chest. But it's like phlegmy and kind of a sickly yellow, but it kind of removes some of the air from my chest, and it's like I feel like someone knocked the wind out of me as I take it as my own.
I'm curious what happens to the maggot though. Like what does the spell do to it?
I feel like I overpower it. It's already under me, and I just kind of put it on its head, and I'm just keep pushing until it stops moving, and it just goes straight through it, and that's where the yellow bile.
Yeah, I think it's probably like lashing out and doing that, which is how you take the ruin damage. Is it kind of like maybe catches you with its teeth or something? And Vero, once you realize that the yellow bile sigil is situated, do you just start pulling Macero up immediately at that point?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah. Once, yeah, if it's like stuck to him and I see the thing sort of shriveling, it's now like, and I'll yell at Inda. I'm like, pull, just to see if we can sort of grab her back on the team side or not.
And do you pull? Or do you leave it? Or do you just walk away in disgust?
I walked away. I think by the time, Vero, that you turn around to yell pull, Inda has you see Inda's back just walking away from you.
Well, I'm like pulling with like one hand. I'm like, I guess I'm twisting. I'm like wrapping the rope around me since I can't use both of my hands because of this cut on me. So I'm like just, yeah, winding up to pull him.
I love it. Brandwine, it sounds like you were deciding to leave the mural untouched. Looking at it though, now that you have a better look at it, since the maggot that was kind of covering it is no longer there, what confirms to you that it was indeed painted by a Geno?
The color of the blue is very specific, and you can't
What is it a
get
painting
the-
of?
Oh, that's excellent. It is a scene of hundreds and seemingly thousands of people wandering, and the fleshy walls of the inside of this giant create the beaches on which these people wander. But there's a little blue against the ocean that I know particularly where that mineral comes from, and only he used it.
I love it. And so passes ring 3. Let's take a 5-minute break. I will remind you as we go on break. At this point, Vero, you have ruin 5. And Massaro, did you raise your ruin from last time that you got? So Vero, you're at ruin 5, so it means you are now entitled to do the reduction roll. So, but I also want you to think about and be ready to tell me about how the leech situation is getting more pressing. Let's take 5. Ring 4. The aorta. The blood is deep red with flashes of oily colors, purples, blacks, and ochres, and even occasional rare flash of gold. Brandwine, these oily, colorful blood pools seem a lot like oil paints. The walls are tight around you. The aorta is a very tight crawl, and you are crawling. The fleshy walls seem to be alive. It is very, very warm, almost too hot to breathe. And yet the walls move in a continuously sort of smooth, almost soothing pattern. The walls are almost like a caress. They seem to caress the parts of your body that you like the most or like the least. I'm curious, what are the walls touching on you? Brandwine?
Having to forge my way through this space, the walls keep touching my face. And I just keep getting the blood smeared across and then having to spit the blood from my own mouth. And I'm uncontrollably uncomfortable with anyone touching my face. It doesn't sit well with me at all.
Vero, what parts of your body do the walls of the aorta caress?
I think it would. I think it's like tight enough that like I can't use my arms. Like I can't move my arms and hands the way I want to. They're constantly sort of like grabbing at it and pulling it, and it's making me feel bad. But then also it's kind of like I can't use these, and like it's like taking care of them for me. So I sort of push forward with my chest and face, and just let my arms sort of be like dragged through, sort of massaged and like moved through these ripples and folds in the walls.
Is this pleasant or not?
I think I give into it and eventually it's pleasant. Yeah. At first I feel restricted, but then it becomes like I don't have to worry about these and they're being sort of taken care of. So my hands and arms then are sort of being like massaged through the ripples and folds.
Yeah. Inda, is this a pleasant experience? What are they touching? What are they grabbing?
I think that Inda's probably moving through, not with ease, but she's really strong, and she's reminded of that as it kind of crush. She's still able to like pull through with her arms, and she kind of thinks about how she's always kind of insecure about just how like ripped isn't the right word, but just like very muscular. She's always been always strong, but I think with the way that the walls are touching her, she remembers her partner and how she would caress her and not judge her for her body. And she remembers that as the walls close in on her.
Sarah, the walls, is this a good touch or a bad touch?
Definitely a bad touch. I feel like in reaction, the kind of constriction, he draws closer to protect his sigils, and he just pushes through.
The movement is slower than you would like, Vero. Vero, I think you're in the lead.
Yeah.
It begins to become too restrictive. You're not moving through it as quickly as you would like. What would you be willing to give up to move more quickly through the space, if anything?
I guess I wouldn't be as aware of the folks behind me. Like maybe we're like maintaining contact somehow and I'm okay with getting out of earshot or getting out of communication to get through this tight sort of section of things quicker. So yeah, I'm willing to risk us losing contact for a moment.
I think you can actually take a moment, take advantage of a moment when the aorta sort of like expands and eases up for you to crawl away from the rest of the group and not be slowed down by them. If you want to do a reduction roll to see if your companions realize you're leaving them behind or not.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, what'd you get? A 3. Your ruin goes down and your betrayal does go unnoticed. Massaro, I think you're next in line and you realize that you've lost track of Vero. What do you do?
We're all going in the same direction, right?
Same general direction. Yeah. I think it's maybe sometimes like the walls like kind of cabin you off and split you off, but then put you back together, right? It's very like kind of.
Like I wouldn't be as concerned, simply because I know that we're all moving in the same direction. I would kind of rethink my alliance with him a little bit, just question a little bit, like maybe I don't need to trust him either. So
yeah, indeed. Inda, this aorta, it's almost like a birth canal. What do you envision you might be born as?
I think Inda would want to be born as a bird, some kind of bird. She wants to feel lighter than she is right now.
Intriguing. Brandwine, I think you're at the back of the group because maybe you notice, because of your particular drive, that these sort of like multicolored bloods, these oily bloods, they are like paints. Agino almost certainly used these bloods in his work. What do you do? Or how do you react? Or what are you doing?
I would be first swiping my finger along the wall because it's all over my face, but I can't see it. And looking at the kind of like oil slick shimmer on my own hand, decide that I would take some of this blood, perhaps even to forge some of his work in the future, and then destroy it to earn my place back.
Very intriguing. Very intriguing indeed. As you're all making your way through the aorta, you are hearing more clearly the heartbeat. It's almost like the heart started beating upon your entry into this place. It sounds a little bit like distant thunder, and maybe that's what you thought it was at first. But it's more. It's a heartbeat. It has a steady rhythm. I'm curious. I'd like everyone to speak on how the heartbeat affects or how affects your condition, or how your condition is affected by the heartbeat.
I think as the heartbeat kind of thuds in my ear, I double down on wrapping myself up, and the thought that I get is as if I'm in a cocoon. I need to cocoon myself to protect my treasures and hopefully push through whatever this challenge is, and then kind of emerge as victorious or whatever, or ready to take on the next challenge.
Vero, you have to come. Didn't you choose Devil's Bargain last time that you can't leave, that you have to, or at some point you have to return to become a hermit? Was that you, or was that somebody else?
I don't believe that
It was
happened.
Brandwine. No.
When Inda was taking the breath sigil out from the hermit, she made that bargain, and then
Inda
I
made the
tried
bargain
to, like,
and didn't end up with the
and
sigil.
I betrayed.
That's
right.
right. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll check in on that in a minute. Vero, how does the heartbeat affect your condition?
I think Vero is sort of, in the last few hours or so of this, is really sort of like regaining himself, and then not thinking of himself as this failure who like deserves the failure, and it's kind of on this like redemptive thing. I think the beat is like making me stand up a little taller. Like I'm actually like fueling and like filling up, and even not being trusted by Inda when I'm like the most trustworthy person ever is like reminding me that I have the capacity to lie. Like like Vero probably hasn't told a lie in like 20 years, and is like sort of was like offended that he wasn't believed, but now it's like, that's right, but I could be anything. I don't have to tell the truth every minute of the day. No one believes and so he's kind of like like becoming more sort of himself again, maybe going back to that younger state of some of the pride that came as such a flashy pilgrim or something. So yeah, he feels that beat is like literally pulsing him and like pumping up his body
What's
and
the
pumping up
leech
his
doing
spirit.
though?
The leech, I think, is like the size of a cat now, and is just like under my robes and has just been getting filled and filled and filled on me. And so maybe, yeah, it's feeding on some of that. I mean, it's like healed me. Like all of my wounds are now healed from it, but it's like feeding off of my growing pride, and yeah, it's cat sized now. It's like 12 pounds.
In my head canon, Vero's ribs were just like paintball bruises. Like
Well, and how is the heartbeat affecting your condition?
Yeah, right. Is it something that's like physically beating down on us too, or is it just the
You just hear
sound?
it.
And
You just hear it. Yeah.
all right, I still, yeah, Inda is probably, you know, in her own little world, thinking about everything that's happening and gritting the last of her teeth. And now that there's this booming sound in her ears, it's bothering her even more, and like keeping her from really getting deep in her thoughts. And she tries to like clench her jaw one last time, the last of her teeth break out, and she accidentally swallows pretty much all of the last of them, and she feels them scratch her throat as she goes down, and she like coughs and sputters and just like feels her throat hoarse and feels that she has no more teeth left in her mouth.
Brandwine, how is the heartbeat affecting your condition?
Since the moment I stepped foot inside this carcass, I have had the taste of blood in my mouth that will not cease. But now, in almost response to this heart rate, I can feel it like the need to vomit. There's a little like extra starting to, oh. And as she spits, she sees that not only is it blood that she's spitting, but there are oily streaks in it.
Brandwine, you're at the rear of the party. These blood paints that were almost certainly used in Agino's works would be a fabulous treasure to do whatever you do with them. And it seems to be something only you are conscious of the four of you. You can bottle it and you could turn around and leave right now and not go to the heart, abandon the group, or you can press forward.
I need the time. I need the time to destroy all of his work completely. And if I am not immortal, I'll never accomplish it in my lifetime. I must continue forward.
I'm curious, what's the, we know the drive. Why do you have to destroy the paintings? What is it that like is so offensive to you?
I was tasked by an order of zealots that believe his work will somehow bring about the ruin of us all and crack the world in two. There's a lot of mystery around how powerful these paintings are, and they must, something that powerful must be evil. But having failed in destroying the one the first time and losing that place of home, I am now compelled to overcompensate and destroy every scrap of his art from the face of the planet.
Pharaoh, because you separated from the group, you are the first to discover the higher sigil of phlegm inside one of the undulating walls, a mucus-colored green. Do you
I like if my hands are still pushing through, I like the idea of sort of grabbing it and just sort of like, like taking it and holding it as I push through these tight walls for sure.
You take it.
Yeah.
And Massaro, we never actually talked about what the yellow bile sigil does. You can make a person angry and give them strength or heal them. And Vero, the sigil of phlegm, lets you age someone or something until it is old and frail. Inda, you still have no sigil.
Tired of this.
I'm gonna rage quit in a second.
I can't
Vero.
stand y'all.
Vero, I want a reduction roll for taking the sigil surreptitiously. Because if you fail, or if you get caught, it's going to be Inda who catches you. And what'd you get?
I am safe. I rolled a 3. So now my ruin drops down to 3.
It does indeed.
And I'm safe from detection.
Indeed you are. And still no sigil. And so passes ring 4. Let's take a quick break. We'll take 3, come back and do ring 5. Ring 5. The heart. In every ring I've described the blood to you. But now I want you each to decide what color you think a giant wizard's blood should be. And that is how you perceive the blood here. Whoever wants to say first, do so.
I feel like it's multi-hued, like the rainbow on top of on the skin
Like
of
an oil slick.
oil. Yeah.
I think Inda sees a very deep, rich, regal purple.
I think Vero sees just actual red, just human blood because of just this new humanism that he's adopted. Just human deep red.
Branwen has had a lot of experience with this blood moving through the aortic passages. And while I still see the multi-hued oil slick, it almost looks now like there are veins of pigment moving. The color runs even deeper, as if this is where it originated.
Hmm. The giant's magic is still alive here. You can sense that the giant both resents the intrusion and yet welcomes the opportunity to share their nightmares and dreams with you that they've been having for all these centuries. There is a literal physical heart suspended over a vast cavity that you stand on the precipice of. You can reach it by walking across thick ropey tendons. There is so much evidence of prior treasure hunters here. There's a spear sticking out of the heart. The spear is tiny and insignificant. Someone has actually erected a shrine to the giant here. And you see things that are drawings and offerings that reflect the giant's story. I want to remind you of the giant story. A wizard in the ancient world who physically grew as their aspirations grew, as their talents grew, as their knowledge grew. They became bigger and bigger and bigger, so big that they began to dwarf trees and hills, so big that the gods conspired to kill them. The giant is sharing its dreams and nightmares with the four of you. And those dreams and nightmares are intermingling with your own dreams and nightmares. Its memories are intermingling with your own memories. I would like for you each to share a memory of your past, perhaps connected to your drive, perhaps not. But in the memory, you are the giant. Think on it for a moment. And then whoever wants to speak first, go ahead.
When Branwine returned to her order empty-handed, she cast herself onto her knees and lay prostrate in front of the head of her order, who had given her these orders. And having failed them, she is weeping and begging and pleading for her own life. And as she's crying, she realizes that she's crying blood. And then her body starts to grow, and she outsizes the room she's in and can see, as she busts through the ceiling, all the way across to the horizon.
Miss Zero thinks back to that moment where the soldiers took away his brother, and he was abandoned as his assistant. And he looks down, and he has a spear wound in the same place that the giant had the spear wound, and he towers over a forest, and he looks down and he sees the giant tracks that are left from them dragging away his brother Osto. So
I think that Inda remembers the moment attempting to save her partner's life, having her on the surgical table, a sight that she thought she'd never see her partner in, and just remembering the blood and gore on her hands, something was very familiar to Inda, but in this situation was so grotesque to her. And I think as she's looking down at the blood and gore, it's mixed with she sees the giant's hands that are now her own, and watches the giant look at their side and look at the wound that they've just sustained, and the same mix of confusion and shock and horror intermingles between both their memories.
And I think Vero goes back to like a moment on the trail that was particularly difficult. Maybe like the moment where he made that sort of fatal mistake, like chose the wrong path through the mountains or something, and just remembers that desperate feeling of uncertainty, and then slowly begins to grow and sort of, take on that persona of the giant and be able to see the paths now all the way. It has almost like true knowledge, and can see the other caravans that are moving here, some of them falling off a cliff, some of them succeeding, but sort of like having the knowledge of this area, like a whole 700-800 miles or something in any direction, and all of that uncertainty just leaving, and this sense of knowledge that comes from that perspective and that understanding sort of then overwhelms the previous memory of disgrace and uncertainty.
Fantastic, everyone. Thank you. There is only one higher sigil here, higher sigil of the heart. Only one of you can attain it. Massaro cannot attain it. You see it on prominent display. It is on the heart. It is like a sigil that matches the color of the blood as you've described it. This sigil is the only thing keeping the giant's carcass alive, and it can only be grabbed by one of you. And whoever grabs it will take it into their body and become immortal. The giant will die. Let's just have the scene with all of you there, stumbling out of memories, faced with your decisions.
Brandwine's already running across the tendon.
I'm just going to look, Vero will look to see one flash of any kind of help, connection, eye contact from Inda whatsoever.
I was going to say before that happened, Inda was going to look over at Vero, possibly to ask him, like, is this still mine? Like, based upon what he had told her earlier. And then I think, yeah, she begins to turn over and look at him.
I'll cast my ritual on the tendon that Brandwine's on to shrivel it with my new phlegm thing, which can age or shrivel something. So I'll just try to shrivel it in front of her so that it forces her to sort of like turn back. I don't want her to drop, but it's going to start like rotting away, shriveling away from the heart back to the precipice that we're on.
That's very interesting indeed. I want to check in with Massaro. Massaro, you can leave right now. You see a wound that is opened up to the outside world, a wound that certainly no one has discovered before, or they would just come in directly from it. So who knows where it's going to spit you out in the world. But there's nothing keeping you here with these people. What do you do?
I mean, he definitely considers leaving. But something about the memory makes him empathize with the giant.
Oh, I see a potential future conflict coming up. That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see if
sorry.
no, that's good. We'll put a pin in that right there. That sounds great. Vero and Brandwine, I think the contest is essentially to prevent Brandwine from getting to the sigil, essentially, is what it sounds like, is what's at stake here. I like it. I think that's great. I think this is dangerous because you're using the sigil, Vero, and Brandwine because you are running across this tendon to the heart. There's got to be some danger there. Let's talk about building die pools here. Brandwine, do you have a relevant skill?
Improvisation seems handy, but I also would say that with my ritual of breath, stolen ritual of breath, I could perhaps compel a hurricane-sized wind behind me to not only compel me off the tendon, but launch me towards the heart.
Launch you towards it. Yeah, I think that's very good. I like that very much. Do you have a light die going here? Your sigil can count as the light die, Vero, since the way you've described it, you're using the.
I also have rituals as a skill, so
Yeah, you're good to go. We got 2 light dice. That's awesome. Let's talk about Ruin. Vero, you have 4.
I'm down to 3.
Oh, you're down to 3. Oh, you're not clicked off the cell, so it doesn't show us.
Oh, sorry.
And Brandwine, you have 4. So that is a Brandwine 5 light, Vero 4 light, a dark die. You each have 1 dark die and as many as you wish to risk. You know the stakes. Go ahead and type your dice into the die roller.
All right, I'm locked in.
I'm locked in.
Hit roll.
And go.
All right.
Oh,
I'm sure the viewers of the video want to know what's going on here. Okay, so the winner of the contest.
Wow.
So they both got 2 6s. So we have to go to 5s. And Vero got 2 5s. So Vero is the winner. Vero's Ruin does go up by 1 because one of the dark dice is on. Just so people know, it was 5 light and 6 dark for Brandwine, and 4 light and 8 dark for Vero. But the risk paid off. You have stopped Brandwine. Go ahead and describe it, Vero. What does this look like?
I believe that, I mean, I think she exposed herself with using the ritual, right? Like we all saw her like flash this wind or gust behind her. But I'll say then maybe she lands up on another tendril and I'm just like rotting them all until finally like all of these tendons that she's like, almost like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragoning, like with her improv skill, like jumping up, and I'm just like shriveling them all until she finds sort of like slides on the dirt back on the precipice right in front of us, realizing that all of those paths have now been cut off.
I'm going to say that Brandwine just slides into darkness, and we'll check in with Brandwine in the
Oh,
epilogue.
okay. shriveling until she falls into the darkness.
We will epilogue with Brandwine.
And my Ruin, then I'll say I'm like breathing very heavily, and now this leech just falls off of my body. It's like 40 pounds now, and it just like splats on the ground next to me. And I'm just like sweating from the first time using this kind of ability. And I look over at Inda, like, are you not entertained?
Inda, you can go for the sigil, but Macero, it sounds like you don't want the giant to die. Is that fair?
Yes, I think he's this whole journey. Macero's been almost by himself, right? Looking out for himself. And when he's thinking about the memories, he begins thinking about the wound of the giant and people taking advantage of the giant in the same way that people maybe took advantage of Macero in the past. And I would like to use ritual.
Indeed. Sounds like it's a contest roll between Inda. Inda, I assume you're going for the sigil.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think yeah, she would just look back at Vero and thank him, or just do a nod and go to run forward.
Indeed. And so, Macero, what ritual are you going to try to attempt?
Yellow bile.
Okay, which is the one that makes them angry, yeah?
Makes them angry, gives them strength, or heals someone.
Oh, so you might be healing the giant then?
I want to heal the giant.
Oh, interesting. So the giant can fight back. That's really intriguing. I like it.
Oh God.
That's
worse.
I think the ultimate stakes are, does Inda get the sigil or not, right? I think that's ultimately what it boils down to. So, but I love it in the fiction. So let's figure out dice. Macero, you've got your light die for the ritual. Inda, do you have relevant skill?
Deduction?
No.
Yeah, no. probably nothing
So
here.
that's going to be a lot of dark dice for you. Let's talk about what's the other part of I always have to look at this. I will never commit this to memory.
We're doing a contest roll, right?
Yeah, we are indeed. So you've got 1 light. Okay, so you have 1 light die right now, Macero, and you have 0 light dice currently, Inda. Now, you're both going to take a dark die. So it's 1-1 for Macero and 0-1 for Inda. And then as many additional dark dice as you're willing to risk. Remember, if any of the dark dice come up 1, your ruin goes up by that amount, or by the number that do.
I can't use another skill though, right?
Nope, it's 1 light dice is all you ever get. So as far as that goes. Oh, and you also get more light dice for your ruin. So Macero, you get 4 more light dice for your ruin, and Inda, you get 3 more. So the current die pools, Macero has 5 and 1, and Inda has 3 and 1. And you can add as many dark dice as you wish. So if you understand what's going on here, go ahead and type in your dice into the die roller, but don't roll yet.
Already.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Do it.
Oh.
Okay.
Inda.
Inda wins with, okay, so Inda had 3 light and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 10, dark dice 10, yeah. And Macero had 5 light and 5 dark. Inda wins with 3 6s, but also takes 2 ruin increase. Macero also takes 2 ruin increase, regrettably. And that puts Macero at ruin 6. No, only the dark dice count for the ones. But in any case, it's enough to put you up to 6 ruins. So you are lost to the giant's carcass. And Inda wins the contest, but I do want some fiction from both of you. So Macero, describe the attempt. What were you trying to do with the giant?
I was trying to heal him so he could fight back. I wanted to close the wound. I wanted him to stand up to these people, these small, insignificant people who take advantage. And I feel like Macero is in full Tetsuo mode, right? Like he's like got a cloak wrapped around him. He's like coughing up like yellow bile, and he's hulking and he's huge. And do I get to describe the failure or?
Yeah, I'd love to see what the magic looks like. So even though it doesn't stop Inda, I'm curious what it looks like.
So I just I fling some of the yellow bile onto the ground, and I touch like where the muscle is around, and I want the bile to kind of soak in, and then wherever it touches, I guess it fails.
Maybe I like the idea of the giant even fighting back, but just not winning.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So then everything comes alive, and the heart begins to beat. And for me, I don't know what happens. I'll let Inda describe it, but the muscles around where I'm standing start consuming, like not consuming, but like engulfing me until I just become part of the giant himself.
I love it. Inda, you get to describe your success. You managed to navigate all this. What do you do? What does it look like?
I think that Inda notices what Macero's doing and just like calls out, "You idiot!" and like starts to run past, is like watching as like these decaying like tendons are trying to whip out towards her, and continues running forward and just watches as Macero just like melts further into the musculature of this area, and just like takes one more glance back and keeps running forward.
You will get the sigil. It will fuse into your own heart as you take it. I will tell you, your immortality comes with a bit of a monkey's paw here, which is that you can no longer be healed either. Nothing gets better. So your mouth is always filled with cracked and missing teeth, whatever physical things you have suffered in this place or will suffer in the future is forever. Everyone who's not Inda, please describe how you know the giant is dying.
Well, I would say maybe that heartbeat just stops, and just a deafening silence of a place. Like as soon as it fuses, it's just like boom, and it just like hangs limp and stops.
Like an EMP.
Yeah, like the silent flatline.
Brandwine, you're in the dark, but how do you know the giant's dying?
I no longer feel the blood in my mouth moving.
Sarah, you are occupied currently, but nevertheless, you know that you failed to keep the giant alive. How do you know?
I can see like the flesh around me turn black and start to wither away. And I just, yeah. I guess I can't do anything because I'm but I'm just watching horror as that happens.
And so passes ring 5. We shall take a 3-minute break while you all think of your epilogue. Your epilogue should not implicate another character, just focus on yourself. You can focus on any point in the future to tell us your character's fate. So think on it while we're on break, and we'll come back in a few. Epilogue. Whoever wants to epilogue first, go for it.
I have one, but I think I'm ready. You guys have anything pressing? Okay. Years from that last moment, the giant's carcass has kind of deteriorated and everyone has moved on. There's probably a long period of where the ground was very fallow and corrupted, but nature started taking over, and a local lord has decided to build a keep there. And he starts using the labor from the neighboring Barcel prison. And a crew's out there working, and there's one of the members is an older man, and it's Macero's brother, Osto. And he's digging, like I guess they're in chains, he's digging, and he finds a squire's armor kind of buried deep. And he recognizes there's like maybe some family insignia on it. He recognizes it as Macero. And he knows about this place. And he kind of stops working and considers it for a bit. And then I guess the foreman just like, get back to work, you lazy louse, and kind of kicks him a little bit. And he looks at it with disgust and he spits on the armor, and that cuts away.
Thank you. Brandwine?
Brandwine was falling into darkness, and having cast this hurricane-causing ritual that had never worked before and she had never tried, ended up just blowing a hole through the side of the giant. And she stumbles to the ground outside as the giant is dying. And you can see she's just crying tears and broken. And how could she's failed again. And then it's a super cut of different scenes in which we see her cooking in front of a fire. And then one by one, all of the people sitting around the fire begin to fall over unconscious or dead. And then you see another moment where she's sneaking out of the darkness and using her carve ritual to just slice the neck of some guard. And then the camera pans to a wanted poster that is very tattered, in which you see wanted Brandywine the Unsavory.
Vero?
I believe Vero became obsessed with this sorcerer and spent his life researching the history of this giant. And using my ritual of blood to keep things younger, I perpetuate my own life for hundreds and hundreds of years, researching the sorcerer until finally Vero like uncovers in some dark tomb then that first initial magic book that the sorcerer had. And he just like, cracks it open by candlelight and like inhales and gets like 4 feet taller. And then it just like cuts.
I think that Inda manages to escape with her newly branded heart, and news travels kind of fast of what happened, and she isn't able to return to her normal life. She's hunted by others for her heart, and she's much more frail and easy to injure than the giant was. And she spends many years hiding, being hunted, being pursued. At certain points, she sustains injury she can't heal from. She's missing an eye, a limb. At another point, she's barely able to move and speak. And at a certain point, many, many, many years later, she finds herself barely struggling to crawl up a hill to up a grave site. She spends the next few hours digging. She's got like dirt under her nails, and she barely has the strength to do this. And finally she reaches the resting place of her long dead partner, Sybil, who's pretty much as bones at this point, and she just kind of lays down next to her and looks up at the pale blue sky and watches the birds.
Fantastic. And that concludes Trophy Dark, the Giant's Carcass. Let's go ahead and do stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the whole 2-part series, and wishes are things that, in this context, just like maybe elements of the story you would like to have seen more of, or maybe what you would like to, maybe if you're curious what might have happened if another choice had been made. And I'll go first since you all shared epilogues, and I'll say that I really enjoyed this 2-parter a lot. It was really good. I think everyone did a really, really excellent job of exploring the inter-party tensions or intra-party tensions. A really good job of like letting the sigils be like a driver in like how your characters behaved. I mean, because that was the treasure of this incursion. And how that interacted with your drives. I thought that was really great. I thought we had some, all the contest roll scenes were really good, and just really enjoyed those a lot. But the story was just overall really good. The epilogues were terrific. Yeah, it was a great, great story, and it's tragic, and it was poignant in places. There were times when I was like secretly rooting for certain characters at certain moments. Yeah, it was good. It was really very exciting story. I think we got a really, really good, exciting story done for this. So yeah, those are my stars.
Yeah, definitely stars for all the conflict we got there at the end. in Starspire, I really liked seeing like the different conditions developed, like how Vero's leech just got bigger and bigger and eventually reveal, and I really liked seeing that develop, as horrific as it was. And I liked learning more about Branwen's drive. That was really interesting, like the painting and connecting it to the blood and seeing the mural and everything. I really liked learning a lot more about Brandwine at the end and learning why she was exactly there. And I also really liked Macero's betrayal at the end. It was a lot different than let me just hurt the party. It was in such a specific way, and I love the reference to Akira. And I was like, thinking about that a little bit earlier. I love that she really leaned into that heavy right at the end there. That was super cool. Yeah, and then wishes. It's the only thing I could think is it's very odd how good we were rolling for Ruin. It seemed really hard for us to get Ruin in this incursion, and I think that made it a little bit tricky at the end, since so many of us had like been under 5 or had like reduced so much. So I guess I wish I could have seen like a little bit more right on the edge of being lost at the end, but it still ended up like super good at the end in the way everybody ended up.
I'll go. Although I want to add to that just a little bit, because Caleb, you said everybody had a really hard time getting Ruin. I felt like I fell hard on my face in the
You got to
first 2
5
rings.
really fast.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
Very
true.
quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of forced me into
And
a
that
position
drove
where
the-
I'm like,
that drove the
all right,
drama
that's
initially
where
too. Yeah.
where I have to play it. So I get that maybe you didn't get that as a player, but I still felt like there was a lot of momentum from my own Ruin as I let's see. Also, stars for Vero's like narcissistic reclaiming of the self. That was amazing. I also liked the Akira reference, was excellent. But Macero, you like Jay, when you were describing how he was starting to grow and get awkward, I was really present for all of that. I could actually visualize that growth spurt where he's like knocking his head up against a rib, like a teenager running into an exit sign in a door frame. Like it felt very grounded and real. It's fun to watch that develop. The ick, a star for all of the ick, because wow, there was plenty of it. But it felt sticky and tactile in all the right ways. So that was definitely a star. And you know, as much as I like to epilogue and I tend to be the character that does that fun punny thing, Caleb, the way you capped it off with the emotional payout as the last person to like, it was beautifully done. I like did the beat and it snaps because that was the level, the tier of what you were giving, and I loved it. So huge star.
Yeah, that was a star for me too. I thought Macero's was really, really like impactful in that same way. I just like because you got like the full story of like what happened to the brother, and it was like the most like tragic thing, you know, like it was very like just it was almost like sardonic at the end, you know, it was just like, well, I guess that's the way it went. And yeah, I thought that was really, really intriguing. Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I didn't jump in there. Whoever wants to go stars and wishes, go for it.
I'll go. Yeah, I mean, for me, the stars then were sort of like all the characters really sort of like finding their place and their relationship to everyone. I think one of my wishes last time was for me to like connect with Brandwine in a way to get how Vero's gonna connect with that character. And I think by the end, everyone, we had really created a really nice matrix of like everyone had their agendas, their beliefs and stuff about each other person, right? It was this perfect small group where everyone had a line connecting to every other person. And I thought that was so cool, right? So you could like see it and interact with it. It was very like real, which I think was great. Yeah, and then stars for I think people playing out drama in a way that made for a super good story and super good rolls. Like, I mean, obviously everything everybody else already said, but to say new things, I think people, I mean, I was just very impressed by the playmanship of weaving a story together and knowing just when to hit those beats and just when to follow those dice rolls and really take things in new directions you wouldn't have done. Like, it was just really, really cool to sort of like coast and like surf with folks that were doing that. So yeah, praise to everyone for that sort of that very skillful storytelling. I felt like it was really, really fun and really engaging.
Oh yeah, and for both for Brandwine and Barrow, like going so hard in the one contest and putting all those dark dice definitely inspired me to go hard when I had that contest, because I felt like whenever I had that, I was like, oh, I don't want too many dark dice. And after I saw your contest, I was just like, oh, okay, just let's put everything out there, as many as possible. That was so awesome, that moment.
For like a tiny bit of context, the last time before this game, I rolled a contest roll. I knew where my character was headed, and I ended up throwing like 21
Like 20 dark dice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you absolutely were dead at the end, but it was like
I got precisely
you got the result
enough
you wanted.
ruin
Yeah.
to die. Precisely enough
Yeah.
ruin to die and succeed. It was excellent. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to just lean in hard when you can.
Especially if you intend to be like, you know, it's like, well, I'm done. It's like the ultimate, like, this is just a con game, you know, so throw the character to the wolves, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I dropped the Mike's character.
Yeah. It's a mechanically supported con game character, right? Good. I love it. Jay, do you want to say stars and wishes?
Yeah, I'll start with the wishes. I think, I mean, I just kind of wonder what it would have been like if, well, if I'd succeeded and the giant came back. That would have been interesting. But another, if I just left, and I'm just wondering, like, what could have happened? Probably something the same would probably happen, more than likely. But for stars, you know, kudos to all of you guys. Phenomenal gameplay. I was kind of concerned because, you know, I was like, oh man, you know, Macero is kind of off on his own. He's being like the loner, but I'm like, everyone is like being driven by internal struggles, and they're all on their own kind of. And it was just great to see that interplay of all the characters. I just want to point out Caleb's angst of not getting the any sigils, and the kind of entitlement that he, you know, I just assumed that you would have from getting that last one, and then just kind of the irony at the end for your epilogue. Another star is just, you know, the spaces in the gameplay. Like, there's a lot of pauses, very, which I don't usually get in when I'm playing games. There's a lot, because there's always someone like having side conversations or something, but there was like big pauses, whether they're intentional or whether you were thinking about something, Jason. And it just allowed me, and I'm sure everyone else, to kind of immerse yourself a little bit more and kind of think. And it's very psychological. And I appreciate that. I really enjoyed that. So.
Awesome. Yeah, it's intentional. I mean, I GM in a really particular way, but I'm glad it had the desired effect. So that's good.
I look forward to stealing it.
Yeah, you should. My wish, I too was, I guess my wish is really just like, it would have been cool to see the other contest roll outcomes, right? Like, what would have happened if Macero had ended up dropped down into the pit? What would have happened if the giant would have come alive? Like, those are really interesting questions. Or if Brandwine had gotten the sigil at the end, right? Like, that would have been a real, like, interesting turn of events, because then I think it probably would have come down to like the group just going after Brandwine, right? That might have been really interesting to pursue as well. So I love the outcomes we got, but you can't help but wonder what might have happened, right? So I think that's the beauty of it. So, but otherwise, no, like, I really love it. Oh, I want to give a star out to I want to give a star to Jesse for writing the game, because I think as much as I love Trophy Gold, and Trophy Gold's great fun, the core rules of Trophy Dark, in the Trophy Dark context, the rules they just drive the gameplay in a really interesting and cool way, and it's and it's so focused and so concentrated. Like when that die roll happens, the story is going to go somewhere, you know. And I just love that. And I think it came out really great. And also the contest roll. I famously advocated against the contest roll, right? I didn't think it was important. I didn't think the game needed it, but I've really grown to love it. Like I really love what it does in the game. And this session was really good example of that. So sometimes I can be wrong. And a star to Sabine, who wrote this incursion. This incursion always has such a good mix of like, the one thing this incursion does that is different than all the others is it switches ring 3 and 4. So ring 3 is like the monster danger ring, and ring 4 is the like internal like ring. Whereas in every other incursion, it's the other way. And there's something about that switch, about having that like strange, like the walls touching you, the colors, it's very psychedelic in my mind, at least. Like having that be like what happens right before you get to the heart. It just feels like it kind of like prepares you and front loads you into this like big dramatic, you know, kind of surreal operatic ending. And I like it. The incursion is just really, really cool. It's got so many cool, like each ring just has like something really fundamentally cool going on. So I commend Sabine and give Sabine a star for that. I don't know if Sabine will ever watch this, but Sabine, you get a star. And I think that's all I've got. Any other stars or wishes? Okay, well, thank you all so much. If you're watching this video on YouTube, we're doing the whole Trophy Dark book eventually, so go back to the playlist and find more stories there. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this.